where we are just praying to God in the form of a guru. Okay, guru is the one who gives us the knowledge. Lord Krishna is a guru for Arjun, for us also. Guru comes in many forms also. Okay, so wherever we get the knowledge, and we are saying thank you God for giving us a guru. So Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parbrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. And we'll end the class with the Gayatri mantra. I'm sure you all remember. So just have some mantras memorized also, because it helps us to concentrate whenever the mind is little confused. So if you don't have any other question, let me read this chapter 7, Jnana Vignana Yog, and it starts with the Lord Krishna's message. He says, "Oh Arjun, listen how you shall know me fully without any doubt. With your mind absorbed in me, taking refuge in me, and performing yogic practices, I shall impart to you both the transcendental knowledge and the transcendental experience or a vision after knowing that nothing more remains to be known in this world." So he is saying not only the theory, but I'll make sure that you will experience it also. It's almost if somebody says that there's a wonderful restaurant, they say, yeah, there is, they give you the knowledge, it's there. But the person says, I'll take you there too. And you'll experience the delicious food there. So that's what Lord Krishna is saying, that absorb your mind into me, you will know everything and experience everything too. Okay? So without experience, knowledge is, it doesn't take roots into our psyche. So Lord Krishna says, scarcely one out of thousands of persons strives for perfection of self-realization. Scarcely one among those successful strivers truly understands it. Okay, why is he saying that? Because even if we look around us or look within us, how much time do we have really spent in the last, I would say even last a month or 2 months, if you don't want to go back, how much time we have spent knowing ourselves truly? Self-realization means realizing yourself, the real self. And how much time we have spent in just knowing everything else, even in our body also. Majority of the time, majority of the effort for us is spent in knowing other than our real self. Okay, so this is the fact he is saying. It should not discourage us. These statements should encourage us, that Lord Krishna says that you have wasted time. Now pay attention. Do what you're here, come here to do. Then he says the mind, the intellect, ego, ether, air, fire, water, and earth are the eightfold divisions of my material nature. Material nature is called Maya. Okay? Anything other than the God and the soul, soul which is part of God, is Maya. And Lord Krishna has divided that into 8. Mind, intellect, ego. Ether is the space element, air element, fire element, water element, and earth element. So 5 basic elements which are called Panchabhut, and then Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar. So he says this is my eightfold Prakriti. He uses the word Prakriti in the Sanskrit terms, but this is also called a Maya. And over here in the English translation, he said, my material nature. Why my material nature? Because it belongs to God. Okay. It's not that some other power has created it. But he says, this is my material nature. Not my transcendental nature, but my material nature. Then he says, material nature or matter is my lower nature. So now he uses the word lower nature. Because if some people say, okay, all right, this is also created by God, so what's wrong in just being absorbed in this? But this lower nature will give us a lot of bumps and lot of kicks. Sometimes you are happy, sometimes you are not happy, sometimes you are miserable, sometimes you are depressed. This is what the effect of this lower nature is. And if you are happy with it, hey, go ahead. But we are not. When the kicks come, we are not happy about it. Okay? So material nature or matter is my lower nature. My other higher nature is the spirit or consciousness by which this entire entire universe is sustained. Oh, Arjun. Okay? So it's like a matter and energy, prakriti and purusha. So these are the different terms used, but you got to understand this whole thing is created by God with this help of the material nature, and he's the one who created it. Then he says in the verse number 6, know that all creatures have evolved from this twofold energy, and I, the supreme spirit, am the source of the origin as well as the dissolution of the entire universe. So in other words, he's just explaining it further that all of this has come out of me. Creation has come out of me, and dissolution is also with my nature. That's why Lord is called the Brahma also. Lord is called the Shiva also. The energy of God, the power of God, which destroys all, is called Shiva. The power of God, which creates it all, that's called Brahma. Okay? There is nothing higher than me. If somebody says, no, there's something higher than God, according to this philosophy, nothing higher than God. This is it. There's a higher than the Maya and the Prakriti and the nature and the materialism, but there's nobody higher than God. There's nothing higher than me, the Supreme Being. So whether we call it a God, whether we call it Supreme Being, he says, that is it. Everything in the universe is strung on me like different jewels are strung on the thread of a necklace. So now he's giving us a little analogy over here. If the beads are strung, it's a necklace. String we don't see, beads we see. The same way, the planets we see, the trees we see, the houses we see, the bodies we see, but the godly element, where everything is strung, we don't see. Oh Arjun, I am the sapidity in the water. I am the radiance in the sun and the moon, the sacred syllable Om in all the Vedas, the sound in the ether, the potency in human beings. I am the sweet fragrance in the earth. I am the heat in the fire, the life in all living beings, and the austerity in the ascetics. So, in other words, in all these things, whatever is keeping them alive, whatever is keeping them sustained, that sustenance power is God. See, like he gave the example of a fire. We never say it's a fire is cold. Heat in the fire I am. Okay? See, read it again, oh Arjun. I am the sapidity in the water. In Hindi, it's called like a ras. The ras in the water. See, it's like a raso aham apsuhu konteya. I am the radiance in the sun and the moon, the sacred syllable Om. In all the Vedas, all the Vedic mantras, they start with Om. That's the name for God. The sound in the ether. Ether means the space. The quality of the space is the sound. The potency in human beings. I am the sweet fragrance in the earth. I am the heat in the fire, the life in all beings, and the austerity in the aesthetics. O Arjun, know me to be the eternal seed of all creatures. The key word is over here is eternal. Eternal seed. Normally, when something comes out of the seed has germinated. What happens to the seed? It dies. But God is that kind of a seed. Even after everything has come out of him, it is still there. This seed never dies. That's why he called it eternal seed of all creatures. I am the intelligence of the intelligent and the brilliance of the brilliant. I am the strength of the strong who are devoid of lust and attachment. So if somebody is strong, they are very strong physically also, but they are lustful and they are attached to their strength. That is anti-God. So that's why he says, I am the strength of the strong who are devoid of lust and attachment. So with the good qualities, I am the lust or cupid in human beings that is not only for sense gratification and is in accord with dharma for the sacred purpose of procreation after marriage. Oh, Arjun. So that means that all the lower urges takes us towards the prakriti. If you want to rise up, only the virtues will take us up towards that. Okay. Know that three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And in Sanskrit, it's sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. So if you know Sanskrit, you can see that ye cha eva sattvika bhava rajsaha tamasaha cha ye. So know that three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, also emanate from me. So these three guns, they have not come from somewhere else. They are also part of God, but they are part of the Prakriti.
हर्षी कौन सा चैप्टर कर रहे हैं?
Oh, sorry, 7th chapter.
Oh, thank you.
We are on 7th chapter, verse number 12.
Okay, thank you, ji.
Yeah, no problem. Know that three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, also emanate from me. I am neither dependent on nor affected by the modes of material nature. But the modes of material nature are dependent on me. So the energy giver to the nature, to the prakriti, to the maya is God. So lower is dependent on the higher, not the other way around. See, just like waves and the froth and the foam is dependent upon the ocean. Ocean is not dependent upon the waves. Whether they are waves or froth or not, to ocean it doesn't matter. But that waves are not, they cannot be there without ocean. The same way, the lower is dependent upon the higher, not the other way around. So that's why he says, I am neither dependent on nor affected by. So that can go over here also, not just at large God, the God of this frame also. So this Atma, the self, the soul, is neither dependent on nor affected by the Prakriti part of us. When body gets sick, that doesn't mean the Atma gets sick. When the mind gets shaken, that doesn't mean Atma gets shaken. When it becomes arrogant, that doesn't mean that Atma gets arrogant. So higher is not dependent upon the lower. So when we identify ourselves with the lower, we feel lost. When we identify ourselves with the higher, we are not. Then he says in the next one, number 13, human beings get deluded by various aspects of these three modes of material nature. Therefore, they do not know me. So that means average person or most of the people, they just get deluded. they get lost only in the Prakriti. The three natures of the Prakriti, the Tamsikta, Rajasik and Satvikta. He says, therefore they do not know me. We disregard the real and get absorbed and affected by only the unreal. And then he says, who am eternal and above these modes? So that is like a God. That's what that Supreme is. Eternal and above these modes. Then how to overcome the delusive divine power? Because if this Maya, this Prakriti, has really encased us, how to rise above it? How to transcend this Maya? He says this divine power of mind called Maya, consisting of three modes of nature, is very difficult to overcome. Okay, so he is stating this very clearly over here. It is difficult to overcome. Only those who surrender unto me easily pierce the veil of Maya. So surrender is the only way. And surrender cannot happen without faith. And faith cannot happen without knowledge. That's why we are trying to cultivate some knowledge so that we can have more faith and then we can have surrender. Only those who surrender unto me easily pierce the veil of Maya and know the absolute reality. The evildoers, the ignorant, the lowest persons who are attached to demonic nature and whose power of discrimination has been taken away by divine elusive power Maya, do not worship or seek. So in other words, see, this is a style of Bhagavad Gita. If you do this, you will get this. If you don't do it, you'll go there. Constantly he keeps on telling us. So if we surrender, we will attain him. If we don't, he says, you are lost. And he doesn't mind even calling the people who are lost evildoers, because it's like a sliding down is very easy. Climbing up definitely needs to work hard. If somebody says, no, Rajsik is like in the middle, I'm going to stay like this, Rajsik. You will not stay Rajsik. If you don't pay attention to become Satvik, you will definitely become Tamsik. Rajsik is like a greedy. If you are greedy, love for the money, love for the materialism, by hook or a crook, you will like to have more and you become Tamsik. It does not take that long. Sliding down is very, very easy. And that's why he used the word in Sanskrit, it's a dushkrit no mudoho. Very powerful words he's using over here. In English, it doesn't seem that strong. In Sanskrit, they really pierce you when you study it. And you say that I don't want to do bad deeds. I don't want to stay ignorant. I don't want to become the lowest person. I want to rise up. So that's why knowledge, faith, surrender. 4 types of virtuous ones worship or seek me. By the way, from this chapter onwards, chapter 7 all the way chapter 12, those are the chapters about the devotion. But the devotion which is like a love for God, not a devotion where we are afraid of God. So now in this verse, he is telling us that there are 4 kinds of people who worship me, who love me, who come to me. 4 types. So he's just like a categorized all kinds of worshippers into the 4 categories. Oh Arjun, they are the distressed, the seeker of self-knowledge, the seeker of wealth, and the enlightened one who has experienced the Supreme Being. So the very first kind is the distressed. Some kind of a distress. It could be at the physical level. It could be at the family level. It could be at a mental level, some kind of a distress. And if you know the Sanskrit, These are in the second line of this verse number 16, Arth. Arth. And that's where that common word for prayer is in Hindi, Arti. We are crying to God. God give us money. God take care of our body. God take care of our family. It's like a cry to God. Okay, Arth. And the second one is Jigyasu. You want to know. You want to have a knowledge about yourself. That's also a cry. God, I have been living for so long. I have wasted so much time. How come I don't know myself? That's a Jigyasu. Seeker of wealth, Artharthi. Cannot pay my bills. Don't have a job. Can't take care of my family. Cry to God. And the last one, Gyane, who wants to know only God. So he is just made 4 categories of the worshippers. Then he says, among them, even though they're all virtuous. See, remember that in the beginning of chapter, the verse 16, he says 4 types of virtuous ones. So if we are crying to God, that God help me, he says, you are virtuous because you have come to me. Okay, so that's why he's saying, but among these 4, he says, who's the best? Among them, the enlightened one, who is ever united with me and whose devotion is exclusive. Exclusive means he wants God from God, not things from God. That's exclusiveness, is the best. So if we all want to be best actually. That is the deep down inclination of human beings. We want to be the best. So he says, if you want to be the best, go for that, the last category. Because, why? He says, I am very dear to enlightened. And the enlightened is very dear to me. So we want to establish that kind of a relationship. So far, we've been trying to be dear to the world. And we want the world to be dear to us. So over here he says, Priyo hi gyanino ati artham. Exceedingly dear. Not even little bit dear. Aham sacha mam priya. He is very dear to me too. So that kind of a relationship between God and us, a Gyani has. So again he is reiterating, he says, all these seekers are indeed noble. So the first 3 categories, they are noble too, but I regard the enlightened devotee as my very self, because one who is steadfast becomes one with me and abides in my supreme abode. So in other words, a devotee or a seeker or a worshipper has reached to that level. So we should have that as a goal. Okay? Even though here and there we feel distressed, we need God's help, it's okay to ask God, but we should know that what kind of a devotee is exceedingly dear to God. We don't want to lose sight over that. After many births, the enlightened one resorts to me by realizing that everything is indeed my manifestation. Such a great soul is very rare. So in other words, in this lifetime, if we don't reach to that level, we will start next time around where we leave. So that's why he said after many births. Maybe in this lifetime we'll rise up to here, and then next lifetime we'll start from here and go up. Then after that, up, up, up. That's how the progress keeps on happening. And God helps us. Okay, God helps. That's why we have this inclination to study, to practice, to teach our children also, because we did leave off at a higher level last time around. This is dear to us. Okay, it makes sense to us. Persons whose discernment has been carried away by desires impelled by their karmic impression resort to celestial controllers and practice various religious rites for fulfillment of their material desires. So this is like a artha arthe. Okay, the third category which he mentioned, that some people, they just want worldly pleasures also, and they will even resort to the lower levels. They'll go to them. It could be somebody in a higher position. They'll just resort to that. Instead of going to God, they say, I want to use my influence or influence of certain people to get me some better job, better things. So that's why he says they resort to celestial controllers and practice various religious rites for fulfillment of their material desires. They have forgotten the ultimate goal. Next verse, whosoever desires to worship whatever a deity, using any name, form, and method with faith, I make their faith steady in that very deity. Endowed with a steady faith, they worship that deity and obtain their wishes through that deity. Those wishes are indeed granted by me. It's like a giver is God. Everything is owned by God, coming from God. So he says, no matter where you are going, from where you are getting, I am the giver. So best is go to the ultimate giver. That will be the best thing to do. Instead of going through the different stages. But such material gains of these less intelligent human beings are temporary. So he's not considering this very wise to do. He says such material gains of these less intelligent human beings are temporary. The worships of the celestial controllers go to celestial controllers, but my devotees certainly come to me. So our ultimate goal is to become one with God. So all our prayers should be to love God, to surrender to Him, that absolute being. The ignorant ones, unable to completely understand my immutable, incomparable, incomprehensible, and transcendental form and existence, believe that I, the Supreme Being, am formless and take forms or incarnate. I do not reveal myself to the ignorant ones, whose self-knowledge is obscured by my divine power, and do not know my unborn, eternal, and transcendental form and personality, and consider me formless. Okay, so again, he's repeating that ignorant, they don't know. They don't see the reality. They see only the form. I know, O Arjun, the beings of the past, of the present, and those of the future, but no one really knows me. Why does he say that nobody really knows me? Because when we really know God, we have lost our own identity. If a wave thinks that I know the ocean, there's no wave. If the drop of water says that I know the ocean now, there's no identity for that drop of water. The same way, if somebody says that I really know God, as long as they're saying that I know God, they really don't know. It's the ignorance which is talking. When we really know God, we have experienced God, there's no I and Him, it's only one. Okay? All beings in this world are in utter ignorance due to the delusion of pairs of opposites born of likes and dislikes, O Arjun. But the persons purified by unselfish deeds, whose karma has come to an end, become free from the delusion of pairs of opposites and worship me with firm resolve. Those who strive for freedom from the cycles of birth, old age, and death, by taking refuge in me, fully comprehend Brahma and the true nature and creative powers of Brahma. Okay, see, there are two different words. Often people don't read it clearly. Brahma and Brahma. Remember, Brahma is the power, creative power of God. Brahma is that absolute supremehood, that's called Brahm. The definition of Brahm is that there's no place where Brahm is not. In Hindi, it said, kan kan mein vyapt, like every speck of this complete universe, there's Brahm. Okay? But the creation has happened with the one power of Brahm. That's called Brahma. So over here, he's talking about Brahma. Those who strive for freedom from the cycles of birth, old age and death. See, old age, death, whenever we are born, it's sure that there will be a death. Old age may or may not happen, but death is certain. Anybody who has been born. But majority of the people, they go through the birth, they go through the growth, they go through the old age, and then they go through the decay, then they die. Okay? But everybody may not go through all these stages, but these two things will definitely happen. Birth, anybody who has been born will definitely die. And freedom is, when we say freedom, liberation, the ultimate purpose of this existence is that we want to not be born again, so that we don't have to go through all this. We want to just merge with him. So he said, those who strive for freedom from cycles of birth, old age, and death by taking refuge in me. And again, this refuge means the surrender. Fully comprehend Brahma and the true nature and creative powers of the Brahma. The steadfast persons who know me alone as the basis of all, mortal beings, divine beings, and the supreme being, even at the time of death, attain me. So in other words, nobody should think that we are so old now, lost so much time. There's no, we cannot attain anything. He says, no, wherever you are, start walking on this path. There is no lost time. Don't worry about that. Just think about that you want to only develop this relationship with him alone. Okay, so that's why I said that starting from this chapter, the devotion part starts. And then now he's talking about the Brahma. So next chapter, the whole chapter is attributed to this Brahma. What is this Brahma? If Brahma is everywhere, what is it? How come we don't see it? And we'll see that in the next chapter, which is titled Akshar Brahm Yog. Akshar means imperishable, eternal. Brahm. So God, that God element which is everywhere, which does not get reduced, which does not go away, which we really cannot perceive. So this chapter, Lord Krishna will tell us in his words what that Brahma is. Okay, so this chapter is Jnana Vignana Yog, and next chapter continuation of this bhakti is, because I told you that when we know the power of something, knowledge about something, then the love for that thing also grows. So that's why Lord Krishna is telling us in this one, he says, yeah, sure, material desires, you have the material body also, but ultimately there is something which is beyond that. And then he keeps telling us that beyond, what is that beyond? Knowledge of the beyond. What kind of a qualities we need to cultivate to connect with that Brahm? And that is what's going to happen in the next chapter. Okay. So anybody else, any question, comment? So this is a short chapter. Reread the details also. In this book also, he has given quite a bit of detail. I only read the verses, literal translation of these verses. And total verses in this chapter is 30 only. So it's not a very long chapter. So I would expect you to just read and reread. I always tell you that Gita, we just don't read once. We want to digest it and try to understand wherever our level is, and then get benefit from it. Okay, so that our mind becomes clear, our heart becomes clean, and with the body we just become active. Only then we can do selfless service, otherwise somebody else will have to serve us, right? The body has to be healthy. Healthy body, heightened intellect, and calmer mind. That's what a yogi has. Okay, so any question, comment? So you can unmute everybody, Jyoti. If anybody...
I have a question, Hershey. When we studied chapter 7 back in December, after 7.13, you listed 6 qualities. You said if we can cultivate these 6 qualities, we can break out of our shell. And they were tiksha, uprati, and then that's all I was able to write down. I don't know if you remember what they were.
Say that again. Which one was it?
There was tiksha,
Tatiksha.
uprati.
Oh, I see. It starts with the sham. Sham means peacefulness of the mind. The second is the dham, the control over our senses. Okay. Titiksha. Titiksha is endurance, because because of our own karmas, we are getting the fruits. Some are good, some are not so good. To bear the bad fruits also of our actions. That's called titiksha. Okay. That's also called like a forbearance. Just like in the car, we have a shock absorbers. When the car is going on a rough road, the shock absorbers, they absorb. So titiksha, the quality of titiksha absorbs these bumps in our life. Okay. And then comes, there's a shraddha. Right? Shraddha means the faith. Faith in yourself, faith in the teachers, faith in the teachings. Shraddha. Then comes samadhan, the one-pointedness. Okay? So sham, dham, titiksha, samadhan, shraddha, and there should be one more. Anybody remembers?
Is that the uprati one?
Uprati.
Uparati. That's a uparati.
Uprati.
Uparati. Uparati means liking for the higher values, higher path. The opposite of uparati is avirati. Avirati means attachment to the sense gratification. So uparati is higher. So that's also quality we need to cultivate. So these are the 6 qualities. These are called 6 friends of a yogi or for a devotee. And it's not that once we have it, they will stay with us. We got to keep an eye on it. It's a very slippery road. Today we might feel that we have a shraddha, we have a faith. Somebody says something to us, hey, why are you studying this, wasting your time? There goes the faith. All these 6, we got to keep an eye on it. We got to be very vigilant about it. It's very easy to lose track. So that's why these great rishis, they put that samadhan there. Samadhan is that one-pointedness, keep one eye on the ultimate goal. This is my goal. I have made a firm decision. This is it. While living in this world, I don't want to slip down. I want to do my duties, but I want to keep an eye on that highest goal. Okay? So,
Weren't these 6 qualities in the Ashtavakra Gita?
No, these
These
qualities
are
are in
mentioned there?
Vivek Chudamani. In other scriptures
Oh,
also,
Vivek
but
Chudamani, okay.
in Vivek Chudamani, Shankaracharya ji, he says, in order to be even a student, you got to have these qualities. He says, you have gotten a beautiful human birth because you did good karmas, and you have gotten a guru who can teach you, and you have, because Shankaracharya is the guru for those disciples, and he says you have the eagerness to learn also. He says these are three things in one person very hard to find, because some people, I mean, human beings we are all, but how many human beings have the eagerness to learn? And some people have the eagerness to learn. How many of them get a guru? So Shankaracharya ji says, you guys have these. Make sure you have these qualities now if you want to progress. Okay, so without these qualities, progress cannot happen. There are too many temptations out there. In that time, thousands of years ago, there were not that many temptations. There was mainly to preserve this, keeping this body safe and fed. These days, countless temptation in just a little box over here. You turn it on and we know what happens. Right? I mean, all these advertisements, they say that if you haven't done it, if you haven't gone there, if you haven't eaten this, your life is useless. So we got to be aware of those temptations. We got to remind ourselves again and again and again, my goal is that upward movement, which is samadhan, that you have really made a firm decision. Stick to it. Okay? So these are the qualities mentioned in the beginning of that Vivek Chudamani. And Vivek Chudamani is what? Vivek means discrimination. Today we learned that word discernment. Discernment or discrimination, we constantly do. Every day we do, whether to come to this class or not to come to this class. Eat this or not to eat this. Constantly we are doing it. But highest level of discrimination, Vivek. Chudamani means, Chudamani is all times the queens, they used to wear the jewel on the head. It's called a crown jewel. So it's a crown jewel of the discrimination is that I want to reach there. Okay, I want to reach to that ultimate aim, ultimate goal of life. That's in order to reach there, we got to have these qualities. Okay, so that's what these gurus are taking us to. Okay, but the work we have to do. Work we have to do. I mean, they have given us very clear messages, whether it's a Bhagavad Gita, Ashtavakar Gita, Vivek Chudamani, Ramayana, Bhagavad Puran, no matter which Granth we look at, the same message we get. But the Bhagavad Gita, which we study again and again in these classes, because it's very practical. It's very practical. Okay, it's not just a very, if you have studied the Yoga Darshan, the sutras, those are very dense philosophical truths, but this is very practical. So together when we study, we really get a lot more out of these great scriptures. Okay, but ultimate, still the work we have to do. Okay, so good question, Kim. We can see that coming from a different culture also. Do you have a Christianity as a background or Buddhism, or what do you have?